Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. Every Friday we get together and we have a look at the top 5 somethings probably to do with Blood Bowl. And this week, as we've just finished Surf or Turf, the Theory Thursday about whether or not frenzying your opponent off the pitch is always the right decision, mostly is, I thought we'd do a cheeky little quick top 5, looking at what I think the top 5 crowd surfing players are. So we're going to look at players. All of them have got frenzy. That shouldn't be a spoiler, but this is going to be my top 5 players that I think are the best at surfing those players into the crowd. My number 5 is the Werewolf. So the Werewolf is an absolute beast, and I would like to point out that we are starting strong here. Number 5 is the Werewolf. The Werewolf is a fantastic positional. It's movement 8. It starts with claws. It's strength 3. It's got frenzy. This dude does so much work. It's a tough position. It's a tough place to be a werewolf on a necromantic team. You've got to do so much. You've really got to be the blitzer, and you've really got to be the catcher and kind of the runner as well. But with movement 8, and on a team surrounded by quite a lot of dudes who are likely to get knocked down and get back up again, you're never going to keep them down, you should be able to get some reasonable frenzy blitzes and some very reasonable frenzy blocks. So the Werewolf, with their range of 8 squares, their strength of 3, and the supporting cast they have, I think are superb at picking out a target and frenzying it off the pitch. And that movement 8 gives it such a range that when supported well, and on this team you can have some wraiths with guard, that's going to work lovely, or they can hunt in packs. You're going to be able to pass those opponents around between your players, get them near the sideline, and wolf them into the crowd. Number 4, it's the Minotaur. I know, I love Minotaurs, but just being the 4th best player at something is really quite good. There's like a billion players. Okay, so the Minotaur is a fantastic big guy. Now, I've put Minotaurs, but as you can tell from the graphic behind me, I personally think that the Chorf Minotaur, the Chaos Dwarf Minotaur, has a slight edge. Okay, now the reason the Minotaur does such a great job at hooning people off the pitch is it's got horns, it's got frenzy, it's got movement 5. This thing is going to be able to run around and punch lots of stuff. Now, the reason I think the Minotaur belongs in the top 5 is because it does have that frenzy horns element. Okay, so that horns piece just takes the Minotaur up to that next level, because you are going to be able to put those situations together where this guy is going to be able to smash around and frenzy off other big guys. Now, that can be absolutely massive. A lot of the time it won't matter, okay, because strength 6 from strength 5, the majority of the time is only really taking you from 2-die blocks to 2-die blocks. So I'm a big fan of the Minotaur because Kaiju versus Kaiju is great, and you can support, you can blitz into supported players and still put off those extra dice. And the Minotaur does a great job of that, because even if somebody's standing there strength 3 with 2 supports, it doesn't matter. Frenzy blitzing it can be really awkward. It can be really difficult because you can take one good block, you just roll a bunch of pushes, and you end up in a bad situation. With the Minotaur, that one extra bit of strength means that you can run into a pack, you can stampede, you can absolutely bullhorn charge your way in, and that cheeky strength 6 is going to absolutely allow you to just push, kill into the crowd. Absolutely love it. Minotaur, number 4. My number 3 is the Dark Elf Witch Elf. So Witch Elves are absolutely fantastic players. Movement 7, Ag 2+, they start with dodge, frenzy, and jump up. So whenever they get knocked down, they literally jump back up again. They can block. They can frenzy block from prone. And that's what gives them such a high spot on my roster. Mobility, movement 7 and Ag 2+, they are going to be able to, and flip in dodge, they're going to be able to jump out of where they want to, swing around and strike exactly where they need to. So they're going to be able to get a lot of cheeky pushes and some cheeky crowd surfs that way. But also the fact they've got jump up means that even when they're on the ground, they are still going to be able to, majority of the time, pull off a frenzy block, followed by a frenzy block. They are superb. The Witch Elf is such an it's not even underrated, but it is better than people consider it. Dark Elves are really tough. Their starting roster, if you take a Witch Elf, you have to give up a runner and a blitzer right at the very beginning, and that can be really difficult because dodge is fantastic, but block and the ability to get leader early on is pretty tasty, and then saving up for the Witch Elf is kind of the slightly more common thing. I mean, we're talking Brexit margin here. So the Witch Elf does a superb amount of job. The downside of the Witch Elf is it's on a team that doesn't have a lot of guard. Now the good thing is, I think we covered this in a couple of videos, is the potential now to save up SPP. Mean that those players that have access to strength on a secondary, which I think on the Dark Elf team is definitely the blitzers, and I'm assuming the linemen have access to it on a double as well, which they do. Everybody does. So you're going to be able to save up those 12 SPP, especially with those Dark Elf blitzers. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of blitzers go dodge at 6 and then save up that next amount of skill to get guard. And you're going to see a couple, and they're going to be really important because one guard player with Edge 2+, with dodge as well, is going to be able to combo beautifully with a Witch Elf, but that is maybe a season into your team. For now, the Witch Elves just have to do their thing with an unnecessary amount of 1-die blocks, but like I said, with that movement and that agility, they're going to be able to get there, and they're going to do a great job. My number 2 is the Troll Slayer. So the Troll Slayer is not as fast as the other guys. It's not as strong as a Minotaur. It's not as agile as a Dark Elf. But let me tell you, I have been farming dwarf games recently because I wanted to get the formation. Every time I do a formations video, I play like, I don't know, 15, 20 games, either on Fumble or Blood Bowl 2 to just try out these different things. And I just got carried away with the Troll Slayers. And they are, honestly, some of the best in the business. And I couldn't believe it, right? They're movement 5, they're Edge 4+, they're garbage. But they're not. They have just some of the most underrated abilities here when it comes to surfing players. I know that block doesn't help you surf, but what it does do is it puts you in such a strong position that you can take 1-die blocks and not suffer a turnover. So the Dwarf Troll Slayer has that extra bit of bunts that actually, if you end up frenzying yourself into a 1-die block, it's just a skull that's going to end your day. And if you don't surf them, you can still just smash them to the ground. And it's just so satisfying. Movement 5 is kind of slow, but because of the ground game that dwarves take, and the fact you end up with 2 on a starting roster almost all of the time, you can play that game so that you can work those Troll Slayers to the edge. And the fact they start with block means that they are going to be able to rack up those casualties early. They're going to be protected on defense. And then they're dwarves, okay? And one thing that gives these guys the edge on the others, in my opinion, is how quick and easy the dwarf team develops guard. It does. One guard player and one Troll Slayer towards the edge of the pitch is going to be 2-die blocks, pretty safe, all of the time. And that's something that these others don't have. The Minotaur's fantastic, but it's gonna have to work around and take some bad dodges to get there. The Troll Slayer's just gonna spend turn after turn 2-die blocking its way to you, and when you are near the edge, it's just gonna push you over, and it's fantastic. And I have had so much fun surfing players with my Dwarf Troll Slayers. I even gave my Blitzers Frenzy as well. Then I had 4. It was awesome, and I spent most of my time just trying to surf players through. And it is a great way to play. And dwarves just allow the Troll Slayers to feel faster than they are, to feel stronger than they are. When you've got a team with a few guard, some leveled up dwarves, it starts feeling like these guys are essentially movement 7 and strength 4 because they don't need to move far. And they are right there, and they've got that guard support most of the time, which just combos them up. So the Dwarf Trolls there, for me, is my number 2 on this list for crowd surfing because it just has that supporting cast. And doesn't that just sum up dwarves? And my number 1 is the Rat Ogre. So the Rat Ogre has so many strengths compared to the rest of these guys here. All top 5 are going to be having a wonderful time surfing things. But the advantage here that I have discovered, enjoyed, relished, feared is the fact that the Rat Ogre has got it all, okay? Movement 6. It is the fastest big guy. And if you look at some of the combat pieces that we've got, movement 6, being that frenzy, gives it a really good window. The other thing that I think is so potent with the Skaven team, whether it's the Skaven team or the Underworld team, I actually prefer these guys on the Underworld team. Movement 6 is fantastic. They are Edge 4+. The great thing here is that they still get to use Break Tackle. Break Tackle still gives them a cheeky 2+ into the open. Movement 6, with a cheeky bit of Break Tackle, is 2+ into the open. That's a ton of movement. You are going to have a bigger window to strike. You're going to have a bigger window to strike than the Minotaur. You've still got Frenzy. You are going to have more strength than any of these, with the exception of the Minotaur with horns, I'll give you that. It gives you the ability to do everything. And it can also just go off on its own on a merry little adventure, just absolutely carnage strewing everywhere. It starts with Mighty Blow. If we use the Underworld one, it's 6 SPP away from taking Claw as well. Now, Claw and Mighty Blow doesn't combo quite so much, and this is all about frenzying, but sometimes you're just going to murder things as well. So I love the Rat Ogre for this. The Troll Slayers do a superb job. The Dark Elves can pick and choose exactly when to strike, and to be fair, so can the Werewolves. The Dwarf Troll Slayers just end up using the power of Dwarven friendship to surf players off, and the Minotaur does a wonderful job at one-on-oneing big guys. But the Rat Ogre here can merrily wander off on its own, wherever you position it, and you've got a fast team. Whether it's Underworld or Skaven, you will be able to move players almost half the pitch distance, width-wise anyway, to support that Rat Ogre if you need extra supports, if you need a few blocks first. You can line up dudes. And probably the most important thing is that if the Rat Ogre gets near the sidelines, it is strength 5. It is going to take a ton of work for your opponent to surf it off as well. So, as you can tell, this top 5 is super close. And that's fine. You know what? You can rearrange it in any order. There are definitely some players that need to be mentioned. How could I not mention the Yeti? The Yeti's awesome, but suffers on movement compared to the Rat Ogre, and doesn't have horns to give it that advantage on the Kaiju battle of the Minotaur. Berserkers on a Norse team are pretty good fun as well. Norse just does this kind of stuff, and I love it. And Norse players deserve to be up there as well. Can I think of any other cool frenzy players that I think, you know what, let's chuck those two in there as well. And I know there is one player missing, which is the Bloodthirster. And I kind of dropped it out because it is on the NAF expanded teams list, and that hurts me as a Salam player. But the Bloodthirster, you know what, is probably number 0 on this list. It's just so good. But the Rat Ogre, more common, gonna see it a lot, is why it's my number 1. But any of these top 5 does such a good job of surfing those players off the pitch. And when you are deploying, if your opponent has 1 or 2 or just 2 of these guys, you have to be careful. Watch those sidelines, because you're going to lose players. Anyway, guys, please let me know what you think. What players I've missed. I'd be really gutted if I've missed a really good one. I've got a bad feeling I've missed a good one now, which is embarrassing. Anyway, let me know what you think, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.